Hello and welcome to the Irish Aesthete. Today I want to begin talking about one of the most celebrated architects to work in Ireland during the 18th century, and yet despite his justifiable fame, relatively little is known of the man. That architect was Richard Castle. Thanks to research published by Loreto Calderon and Conrad Deschamps in 2010, it has been established that Castle's father was an English-born Jew named Joseph Ricardo, who was appointed Director of Munitions and Mines to Friedrich Augustus, Elector of Saxony and King of Poland in 1699. Joseph Ricardo settled in Dresden in or before 1708, but prior to that date it's likely that Richard Castle, born David Ricardo, was one of the four sons from his father's second marriage to a woman called Rachel Burgos, who had been born in Mumbai. As a young man, Castle is believed to have become an officer in a regiment of engineers and to have travelled through France, Germany and Holland, studying fortifications and canals. By the mid-1720s, he was looking at waterworks and architecture in England, where he was probably in contact with Lord Burlington's circle. As a result of this, he would likely have been to and inspected Burlington House, where changes were being undertaken to the building designed by Colin Campbell. And he'd also have gone to Chiswick House, where Lord Burlington, who, let us not forget, was also Earl of Cork, with large estates in Ireland, although he failed to visit these, and where at Chiswick Lord Burlington was building his villa, assisted by William Kent. One feels all of this had a direct impact on Castle's own development as an architect. Castle first came to Ireland in 1728, seemingly invited here by Sir Gustavus Hume to design a house for him, Castle Hume, in County Fermanagh. Unfortunately, the building has long since disappeared. Soon after his arrival in this country, he was employed as a draftsman on the plans for the new Parliament House by Sir Edward Lovat Pearce, who, it seems, held him in high regard and relied on his expertise. Even before Pearce's death in 1733, Castle had begun to receive many commissions from private clients, such as Richard Wingfield, future Viscount Porscourt. Wingfield's country seat in County Wicklow, originally a late medieval tower house, was now transformed by Castle into a splendid Palladian residence. Then there was the truly remarkable Summerhill, County Meath, about which I have spoken here before, and which embodied the muscularity of Castle's work at its very best. Alas, Summerhill was burnt down a century ago by the IRA, and then its remains cleared away in the 1950s, so now we only have a few old photographs to remind us of what was lost. In the early 1740s, Castle was also responsible for designing Rusborough, County Wicklow, for Joseph Leeson, future first Earl of Milltown. In contrast to Summerhill, Rusborough is altogether more delicate in character, perhaps harking back to villas like that at Chiswick, which Castle would have seen when young. More traditional in form is Ballinta, County Meath, which is thought to have been designed by Castle around 1750, in other words, shortly before his death in the following year. Then there's Strokestown, County Roscommon, a work believed to come from the start of Castle's career as a country house designer, the late 1720s, when he was commissioned by John Mahon. Strokestown very much follows the traditional Palladian form, with a central house linked to wings by curved quadrants. And of course, there's Westport House, a great block of a building designed in the early 1730s for John Brown, later Earl of Altamont. In other words, Castle was the architect of choice for a new generation of landed gentry, his houses very much representing their aspirations to join the aristocracy. But he also designed buildings for long-established families in this country, not least the Fitzgeralds, Earls of Kildare, for whom Castle designed their great townhouse in Dublin, now known as Leinster House, since the 20th Earl in time rose to become first Duke of Leinster. But Castle also designed smaller, more modest buildings, such as this charming market house in Dunlavin, County Wicklow, which has happily survived when so many others were swept away in the last century. Now, that's a very broad survey of Richard Castle's output, but in the coming episodes, I want to look at a number of specific houses for which he is supposed to have been responsible. And in the next episode, I'll be talking about one in particular which was almost lost, but has now happily been saved and secured for the future. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for watching the Irish Aesthete. Goodbye.